Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to be looking at the last pre-constructed deck from Mercadian Masques, which is Tidal Mastery, which is a blue-white deck. Let's have a look at the deck list. So we have 19 creatures, 8 instants, 2 artifacts, 5 enchantments, 26 land. Fairly standard blue-white kind of deck, honestly. Let's get into it. I'll have a look at it. So let's start by looking at some white creatures. 2 Alabaster Walls, which is a 0/4 wall for 3. Can tap to prevent damage. It's fine, obviously a bit boring. Blister Squad is a 2/2 Rebel for 4. You can do X and white, and it does damage equal to target. Does X damage to attacking or blocking creature. Crossbow Infantry is a smaller version of that. 2 mana for a 1/1, taps to do 1 damage to a target, to an attacking or blocking creature. Yeah, those are all fine, I guess. Cho'Arim Legate, one of those. 3 mana for a 1/2 protection from black. If an opponent controls a swamp and you control the plains, you can play it without paying its mana cost. So there's a whole cycle of these legates. This one is this one and the blue one I think are the best ones, which is fine because they're the ones in this deck. This one is, I feel like, it's one of the best just because it has a protection ability. If you're playing against someone who doesn't have black, then you're not going to pay 3 mana for a 1/2. I don't know. It's fine. All the legates are honestly kind of weak. And then Devout Witness, which is a Spellshaper, so we've seen a lot of these Spellshapers already. The whole idea of them is that you pay a cost, discard the card, and the whole idea is they turn that card into a signature, like a other well-known spell. So Devout Witness basically turns the card you discard into a disenchant. Quite a good ability, just have a disenchant whenever you need it. So we have some blue creatures here. A single Cloud Sprite. I don't know why there's just one. Really, it's just 1/1 flyer, and it can only block creatures with flying. Why there's only one, I don't understand. But yep. Then we have 2 Darting Merfolk. So these, how what do I think about these? 2 mana for a 1/1. 1 blue, return it to its owner's hand. So I feel like any creature that can return itself to your hand has like good potential for something. At the very least, this makes like a really good chump blocker. It blocks something, and then you pay a blue back to the hand. The creature it blocked still doesn't do its damage, which is, I guess, what the intent is here. Yeah, it's okay, I guess. Or like if someone ever targets removal, why someone would target your 1/1 for removal, I don't know. But if they do, you could bounce it away. Yeah. Actually kind of would have liked to see like another one of those because I don't know, it's fine. 2 Drake Hatchling, which is 3 mana for a 1/3 flyer, and weirdly it has like a fire breathing ability. 1 blue to get +1/+1 turn. Play this ability only once each turn. I mean, I would have preferred if this was just maybe like 1 colorless and 2 blue for just a 2/3 flyer all the time. Why put that ability on it if you can only do once a turn? I don't know. But pretty weird that a blue creature has like that fire breathing ability. And Saprazan Legates is the other legate. 4 mana for a 1/3 flyer, but it's free if an opponent controls a mountain. Otherwise, you're paying 4 mana for a 1/3 flyer, which is terrible. Like it's such a weird extreme. Like you either get it free or it's 4 mana. Like I feel like this could have maybe been 3 mana, let's say, being generous, and maybe if your opponent had a mountain, it was 2 less instead to cast, so instead of 3. But yeah, as I said, the legate cycle is really weak, in my opinion. And these, as I said, the white and the blue ones are the best ones. So imagine how bad the other ones are. I think the green one is just like a 2/1 for 4, but if they have an island, it's free. I don't know, not very good at all. A couple more Spellshapers. So Diplomatic Escort is 2 mana for a 1/1. Does intervene, I suppose it does. 1 blue, tap, discard a card, counter a spell or ability that targets a creature. That's quite good. Being able to do that. Stops removal, stops troublesome auras, I suppose. It is abilities as well, actually, which is quite strong. Like quite a rare thing to have at this time. Is something that counters abilities. But yeah, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. And then Overtaker, who's one of the rares of the deck. 2 mana for a 1/1. 3 colourless, 1 blue, tap, discard a card, untap target creature and gain control of it until a turn. That creature gains haste until end of turn. So until that creature gains haste until end of turn. I can't talk today. I've just recorded like 5 of these in a row, basically. Yeah, so Overtaker does basically Act of Treason, which used to be a blue effect. Because blue got all the control. Blue got everything. As you can see by Stinging Barrier. Stinging Barrier is a blue card that does indirect damage to things, which is fine. But Overtaker, this is pretty good. Just be able to get control of something, and it's on quite a cheap creature as well. And most of the time, you've got so many cards you could discard here to get that effect, and that's it can be done at instant speed, which is quite strong. So someone swinging at you with a creature, you can gain control of it and then use it then to block. Pretty good. And then 3 Stinging Barriers, which I just said. 2 colours, 2 blue for a 0/4 wall. 1 blue tap, does 1 damage to target creature player. 3 of these for some insane reason. But yeah, again, just weird that blue has like a ping ability. So then we have just a sort of selection of combat tricks and utility cards. So 2 disenchants, a Ramosian Rally, which just gives all your creatures +1/+1 till end of turn, but 4 mana is obviously very expensive. So ideally you want to pay that for its alternate cost. 2 Afterlife, which is actually a pretty good removal spell. Just destroys a creature, can't be regenerated, for 3 mana, but the controller makes a 1/1 spirit. Like, fine, you can deal with a 1/1 spirit if it means killing like a really big threat. You don't mind them having a 1/1 spirit. Thwart is potentially a free counter spell, which is quite spicy. So it's 2 colours and 2 blue normally to counter a spell, which is, expensive, especially compared to counter spell, because counter spell is just right there, and it's 2 blue to counter a spell. So Thwart is an extra 2 colourless mana, but you can pay it for 3, for free, even not 3. You can pay it for free by returning 3 islands you control back to your hand, so you can set yourself back 3 turns, essentially to get a free counter. But if you absolutely needed to, if countering that spell is gonna help you like win the game, then yeah, you do it. You return those three lands, and also late in the game as well. That's not such a big deal at all, because like a lot of cards in this deck are fairly cheap, and also cards back in your hand means you've got some cards here that want you to discard. So it gives you fuel for your Spellshapers, I suppose. I don't know, I'm really reaching there. And then we have some blue enchantments. So Customs Depot is 2 mana. For an enchantment, whenever you play a creature spell, you can pay 1. If you do, loot, which is fine, I guess. Coastal Piracy is whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, you draw a card. That's okay as well. That's pretty good. Turns all your creatures into thieving magpies. And then War Tax, which is kind of like a propaganda effect, but it scales up, which is pretty good. You can pay X. And then creature can't attack this turn unless the controller pays X for each attacking creature. So if you're not doing anything your turn, just put all your mana into that and completely stop them attacking, which is kind of fun. And then the last few cards in the deck. So Noble Purpose. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, you gain that much life. So actually, a lot of cards in this deck that care about your creatures doing damage, because you've got this, you've got the Coastal Piracy. You've got the Trade Embargo, Customs Depot, that benefits you from casting creatures. But things like you haven't got a lot of creatures in this deck, and like some of those creatures are like really defensive, because you've got the Alabaster Walls, which can't attack. You've You got the 3 stinging barriers, which can't attack, and they do damage, but it doesn't count for this because it has to be combat damage. And then you've got like a kind of a couple of weak. You've got the Merfolk, which is just a 1/1. You got the crossbow infantry, which is a 1/1, and it does damage as well, but it's not combat damage, and only 2 blockers. So you don't. What I'm getting at is you don't really have creatures to benefit from these abilities. You know, like these. It doesn't feel like it really belongs here. Like it's not going to do much. Like because you've got quite small creatures anyway. It's yeah. I don't know. It just seems weird to have stuff like coastal piracy and noble purpose. Even Ramosian Rally, I would say, doesn't really fit in here. But anyway, story circle, super good. It's basically circle of protection that can be any color you want when you play it. So, always belongs in the deck. Whereas other circles of protection back in the day, you just sideboard them in depending on what you were playing against. The downside is it needs white mana, whereas the old circles of protection just used colorless mana. Chiron Archives. So this is weird. I had no idea this card existed until I started putting this list together. So 3 mana at the beginning of your upkeep, which is never a good sign because it does nothing the turn you play it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you exile the top card of your library face down. 5, discard your hand, sacrifice Chiron Archive, put all cards removed from the game with Chiron Archive into their owner's hand. So, what do I think about this? I mean, you can let it sort of tick away. You kind of play the cards in your hand because you are drawing and exiling a turn, so you are essentially building up a backup hand. So you could potentially like dump your hand and then pop this and get essentially a fresh new hand of cards. It just obviously takes a really long time to do, because I would say it's not really worth doing until it's got at least 3 cards under it, which is going to take 4 turns because you need a turn to play it, and then it's only on upkeep. Yeah, it's kind of very slow and dirtly. I'm not entirely sure what it's doing in this deck. It honestly feels like, we need a extra rare. Chiron Archive, I guess. Yeah, it doesn't. Don't know. I don't think it really fits. And then Puffer Extract, which is 5 mana. X tap, target creature you control gets +X/+X in the end turn, but then destroy it end of turn. It is destroy. It's not sacrifice, which is interesting. So if you have a way of regenerating it, I mean you don't in this deck, but if you had like green or black creatures who sometimes have regenerate, then this would have been fine. But a really janky combo with this is the what's it called? Overtaker. Is the Overtaker. You gain control of something, you feed it the Puffer Extract, make it really big. I mean, this is requiring obviously a lot of mana investment to do this. But then you attack with that creature, it's buffed up, and then it's going to die at end of turn anyway before it goes back to your opponent. So really janky combo there, I suppose. But very expensive for what it does. But fine, I guess. To kind of pump up like actually it combos with the Darting Merfolk as well. Because you can pump up the Darting Merfolk and then return it back to your hand before it dies. So that's quite interesting. All right, you know what, Puffer Extract, you're all right. You can stay. So what could have been? I would have just made this deck mono blue. Because you hear Tidal Mastery, you think, oh, blue cards. And there's just so many good blue cards that could have been in this deck that would have really done a better job. I would have really doubled down on this kind of like pirate nautical merfolk theme, honestly. So ditch all the white cards because honestly I don't think white really contributes that much in this deck. Like white's strength in this block is rebels, and it's not doing anything with rebels at all. So you might as well go full blue. Blockade Runner is a 2/2 merfolk that you can play 1 blue and it can't be blocked this turn. Brainstorm is Brainstorm. Definitely should have at least 1 Brainstorm in this deck. False Demise is a fun aura that you put on a creature, and when it dies, you get it under your control. So again, sort of I guess fits in with this You could play into this theme of like gaining control of stuff. Waterfront Bouncer is like a really good spell shaper that does unsummon, which is pretty strong. And then potential rares. I mean, instead of the Chiron Archive, which I said I don't really understand why it's there. Tidal Kraken, just a big 6/6 unblockable. And I think fits in with the name of the deck, like the whole theme. Bribery is super, super good. You just go through your opponent's library, get any creature under your control. What's not to like about that? And Rishadan Brigand. So there's a whole kind of cycle of these Rishadan creatures. This is like the big one, but he's kind of representing all of them. So he's 5 mana for a 3/2 flyer. When he enters the battlefield, every opponent sacrifices opponent unless they pay 3. And there's other Rishdans which are smaller, so I think there's one that it comes in. It's like it's like maybe like a 1/1 for 2, and the opponent has to sacrifice something unless they pay 1, and then there's an uncommon one which they have to sacrifice unless they pay 2, and so he's the boss of the Rishtans that they have to pay 3. I just think that would have been more on theme. Would have just gone mono blue, just had a bunch of these cards in it. So in summary, this is okay. Again, I think a little boring. There's some spicy interactions, I suppose, like with the puffer extract and like the darting merfolk and the overtaker, I suppose, but it's quite bland, I think, apart from that. Not very exciting. I wouldn't have been really overjoyed to have or play this one, but that's just me looking at it on paper. Like, what do you think? What do you think looking at this deck? Did you have this deck? Did you play it? Did you make any changes to it? I'd really like to know. Put a comment below. But I'll be back next time to start looking at the Nemesis pre-constructed decks. Until then, thank you for watching and listening. Have a good day.